recently got a package in the mail from Dwayne Kriebel down in Kentucky at Spheramid Woodworks. He sent me a whole bunch of wooden snowflakes. And when I first looked at them, I thought that they were scroll sawn. But no, there's a special technique to making these. In fact, Dwayne makes them literally by the millions. And by literally, I mean that in a hyperbolic sense. But he does make a lot of these. In fact, he has specially dedicated table saws and routers set up just so he can crank these things out. And they're not very difficult to make. Let me show you how. I'm going to begin by tipping my table saw blade to exactly 30 degrees. I've made up a real simple crosscut sled with a 30-degree cut in it. I'm using 6-inch wide poplar. My first cut is going to be long, and it's just going to be for a push stick. I want to set up a stop block so that each piece that I cut is going to be the same width as the thickness of my board. I think this board is about 3/4 inch board, so I'm just going to try to roughly set it up like this. And I'll make a test cut. Now to test it and make sure that I've got it the right size, I'll just flip it over and check it against the end grain, which obviously it's not matching up. So I need to adjust my stop block a little bit. And again, I'll check the face grain and the end grain. And this time, that looks perfect. Each set of snowflakes is going to need 6 of these strips, but it's probably a good idea to cut 7 so you have one to do some tests on. Here's how I'm going to make my push block. I've got little strips of wood that I've cut, and I'm just going to hot glue them to my push block, but I don't want them to extend any further than one of those strips. I want to glue one on this side just to act as a backer board. And there's my custom push block. Now comes the fun part. It's just a matter of making a series of grooves in each of these pieces by tipping your table saw blade at various angles, changing the depth of it, changing the distance that you set up your fence. You can also take it over to the router and use a combination of router bits on these. Just let your imagination run wild. Be sure and make them all the same on each of the 6 pieces so your snowflakes will be symmetrical. Kind of start to test them by just putting them together with rubber bands. It's kind of tricky, but it gives you an idea of what they're going to look like. And you can actually do it as soon as you cut them, such as on this piece, just to make sure your 30-degree angles are all correct and that they fit well together. So to glue these up, you want to glue them up first in pairs by gluing together the 2 face grain sides on each of them. Now I can glue all 3 of these into a snowflake log. And I'll clamp it together with rubber bands. To sand these, I've got some of this anti-slip shelf liner squishy stuff, and it seems to work out really well. Well, I've spray lacquered all of my snowflakes and kind of look like a tray of Christmas cookies sitting here right now. And there's how my snowflakes turned out. I'd like to show you a bunch of pictures of some of the snowflakes that Dwayne sent me. You can pause and look at those and examine them and try to figure out what sets of router bits and blades he used to make those.